Our first guest tonight, who's going to perform her original piece, is Kristin Henry. Kristen has published 2 non-fiction works, 5 poetry collections, and she's been shortlisted for the New South Wales Premier's Award. She has a CD featuring selected poems, some of them sung, and she's sung them on the poetry bus with us too, from her collection Quick Packer. In May this year, her new verse novel, All the Way Home, remember that, All the Way Home, and it's for sale here tonight, was published by UWAP, University of Western Australia Press. She has read to audiences throughout Australia, United States, UK and along the Maribyrnong River. I know because I was there. In November last year, her new poetry anthology, Atheist in the Foxhole, was launched. Kristin Henry is the very heart of our Twilight Poetry bus tours in March of every year. She was on the very first Rotunda panel in the West, and that was all of 4.5 years ago. When I think poetry, I immediately think the gorgeous Kristin Henry.
What a fantastic crowd. Are you all feeling romantic? You're going to be so loved up by the time we finish tonight. My love affair with writing began exactly as it should have, with other people's words. The Brothers Grimm and Hans Christian Andersen, Mark Twain, Louisa May Alcott, my grandmother's letters to me, and St. Paul's to the Corinthians. But before that, before I was even born, there was my father reading to my pregnant mother the medieval tale of a Norwegian girl called Kristin Lavransdatter. This was the story that gave me my name, a chapter in my own romance, my personal creation myth. Then, when I was 10 years old, I got a birthday gift. It was a small pink book, the pages blank, all mine to fill. It was a terrible thrill, realizing that I could make and remake the world better suited to my needs than the one my harsh God had designed. Only the garden for me, thanks. Serpent-free and filled with characters who held their mouths open so I could pour in the purple ink of my imagination. Writing was my powerful, swashbuckling hero, bending the bars of my childhood prison. They say infatuation's early days are simply narcissism. And I was a solitary child, a born exaggerator, a self-creator. It was all about me. The high-flown lies, the low sentimentality, poetic license came naturally. When I was 17, my first menage a trois. The boy didn't care that he'd have to share. When you're in love and young, poetry is your native tongue. There was not much evidence of grandeur in our little town, so I was easily seduced. Writing was my private lover, bellowing into the flames of other passions. Terror and hunger in every syllable, all the things a girl could write but never speak aloud. Every kind of naive hope, each exquisite pain and trembling wish bled out of me and onto paper. Metaphor and simile were secret codes for saying the intense unsayable. Soon I was 25, my future all laid out. A very ordinary life, a mother and a wife. The decade stretched ahead. I was sure I'd made my bed, and it looked like I would not be lying in it with writing. Instead, those were unfaithful years when love of family claimed me. My world became the distance between mailbox and clothesline. And yet I sometimes found myself in the midnight kitchen, alone with the sleeping breath from other rooms of all my precious ones, and a notebook for the containment of ideas too big for our house. It's embarrassing to remember how my husband and my children sometimes ask me where I disappeared to in the middle of checking homework or just before the lights went out. I'd slipped off to writing for hours at a time. We'd picked up where we'd left off, more urgent than ever and more jealous. For no matter where I was or with whom, my thoughts were on the words, their order, their number, their pitch and pace, adding and subtracting, shading and shaping, fantasizing every possible position, playing and replaying the last pin strokes against the page, rehearsing the next, my eyes glazed over, my smile fixed, my ears incapable of hearing the daily dealing in conversation, begrudging every minute that took me away from my own words, till by the end of that decade, my addiction made me shameless. I had started pounding out obsession on a silvery, second-hand Olivetti. When I turned 35, I had some hard-living years. Promiscuous days with stories and plays, with essays and reviews. But it was poetry I'd choose. I gave myself to its language, and it was mostly good to me. Enchanted hours in its company passed like seconds. Together, we would never be rich. But words would fly me around the world and introduce me to ways so strange and wonderful, I'd grow impervious to static lovers. Then they'd bring me home and make me take a sharper look at the familiar. For the next 20 years, writing took all I had. There were marriages and kids, but whatever else I did, it was still the two of us. I was almost monogamous. Sure, I sometimes got my head turned, but by gentler diversions, television, cricket, sex, piano lessons. For writing is a dragon of a partner. We don't curl around each other on Friday nights, settling for safety. Writing forgives nothing. It rails against my cliches, forbids me to be maudlin. It robs me of sleep, shakes its finger at my laziness, won't listen to excuses. All this insistence on commitment, and yet sometimes it leaves me for months at a time. We argue often when my ego makes me stubborn, but I've learned that the words know best. They reach inside and take me out and play with me, then put me back breathless, blushing, astounded. I know people roll their eyes when they catch me laughing to myself. That's when writings come up behind me and whispered some irreverence in my ear. If you tied my writing hands behind my back, I'd be vanilla girl, obedient, mild. It's only writing peels me open, so a darker wildness in my head roars out. Without a pen or a keyboard, I'm logical girl, predictable. Only writing frees me, the drug and dream of poetry, drawing pictures of impossible truths and singing sweet unexpectedness to my thoughts. So how do things stand now? With my time running out, is there still the fire, still the same desire? Can passion stay alive once you're 65? The fact is, all my life, hardly a night has passed without me feeling that old caress of print on paper. Writing has been my one constant. Long ago we found our rhythms were the same. Since then, more than anything, we've learned to listen to each other. Once in a while, I get scared those days driven by obsession might be gone for good, and I'll have to make do with the companionship of memory. But then, some unexpected turn of phrase shoots 1,000 volts straight through me, and I'm a teenager again. Just last week, the beauty of another writer's perfect sentence made me swoon. Long and meandering, its teasing tone invited me to follow it to the end, and it was worth it. I was well satisfied. We were intimate in a way no tweeted 140-word one-night stand could ever hope to match. Thank you.
It was a fantastic night, and it was a real privilege to be reading with these other wonderful writers. And as always, anytime Rotunda organises anything, it's a great success, and the audience was so receptive, and I'm just thrilled that I got to be part of it.